Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where enduring wisdom meets the strength of presence, and where we uncover the truths modern society refuses to teach men. There's something that many men today feel deep down, but few ever say out loud. You keep giving, you keep pleasing, you keep shrinking yourself, hoping it'll make her love you more. You try to be the nice guy because you believe that's what good men do. But here's the brutal truth: being too nice is not the problem. The real issue is that you're afraid to speak up, afraid to draw boundaries, afraid to be rejected for who you really are. You're not weak, you're just wounded. You've been conditioned to believe that love must be earned through sacrifice, silence, and self-betrayal. But the truth is this: authentic masculinity isn't about being liked. It's about being real, being grounded, being honest with yourself and with others, even when it's uncomfortable. In this video, we're going to unravel the myth of the nice guy. We'll explore how fear has disguised itself as kindness, how emotional suppression kills intimacy, and how you can begin to show up in your life and in your relationships as the powerful, grounded man you were born to be. We'll draw on ancient Stoic wisdom, timeless truths about love, and real-life examples that expose how modern men have been stripped of their emotional strength, not because they aren't capable, but because they were never taught how to fully own their power. This isn't just about love, this is about truth. It's about reclaiming your dignity, your voice, and your ability to walk away from anything that doesn't serve your highest self. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, yet still being overlooked, if you've ever been told you're too nice and wondered what's wrong with that, this is the message your soul has been waiting to hear. Get ready, because the version of you that hides is about to meet the version of you that leads. Like this video, if you've ever struggled to be heard, share it with a brother who needs to wake up. Subscribe for more truth, strength, and clarity. And drop a comment below. We want to hear your voice. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Silent Sacrifice: How Fear Hides Behind Kindness. There's a strange kind of suffering that men endure in silence. It's not the loud, obvious kind. It's subtle, it's internal. It shows up when you smile through discomfort, nod when you want to disagree, and offer help when you're already stretched too thin. You tell yourself it's kindness. You tell yourself it's what a good man does. But deep down, you know something feels off. This isn't generosity. This isn't strength. This is self-betrayal. Most men aren't too nice. They're too afraid. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of rejection. Afraid that if they don't please everyone, they'll be abandoned or unloved. And so the nice guy is born, not from wholeness, but from fear. He thinks that if he's always agreeable, always available, always soft, then maybe he'll finally be chosen, finally be valued. But here's what happens instead. People start to take advantage of him. Women lose attraction, friends lose respect, and he starts to feel invisible, not because he lacks value, but because he refuses to reveal who he really is. This is not kindness. This is the death of your authenticity. The great Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." A good man is not afraid to be disliked. He's not afraid to say no. He doesn't lower his voice to keep the peace. He raises his standard to protect his peace. But today, we see men neutering themselves emotionally. You apologize for your standards. You dim your intensity. You bite your tongue to make her more comfortable, all while your soul is screaming for truth. The wound often comes from childhood. Maybe you had to walk on eggshells to avoid punishment. Maybe love was only given when you were useful or compliant. So you learned early on, being real is dangerous, being emotional is weak, being assertive is selfish. But that script is outdated. You're not a boy anymore. You're not surviving. You're choosing. Being nice isn't the problem. Being fake is. Real kindness flows from strength, not fear. It says, I respect you, but I won't betray myself to please you. It says, I will give, but not at the cost of my peace. It says, I love deeply, but I love myself first. Women don't want men who are agreeable. They want men who are true. Men who have a spine, a code, a center. If you're always trying to make her happy at the expense of your own truth, she'll stop trusting you, because deep down, she knows you're not showing up fully. When a man starts to reclaim his truth, something powerful happens. He stops chasing approval, he starts making decisions based on what aligns, not what appeases, and he starts to attract people who respect him, not just use him. The shift begins when you ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or out of fear? Ancient samurai believed that honor was not just about battle, but about being fully present and true in every moment. They called it Bushido, the way of the warrior. A warrior does not betray himself for approval. A warrior speaks his truth with compassion, but without compromise. You don't need to become cold. You don't need to be harsh. You just need to be real, because realness is magnetic. When you show up without a mask, without a script, without trying to manage people's feelings, you give others permission to be real too. And that's when real connection happens. You were not made to be liked. You were made to be respected. And respect starts when you stop abandoning yourself to fit in. This is the beginning of your rebirth, not as a people pleaser, but as a powerful man rooted in truth. Drop a comment below. I attract, not chase. Chapter 2. The Disconnection Epidemic. Why being liked is not the same as being loved. In a world obsessed with image, we've confused being liked with being loved. We chase likes, compliments, temporary approval, and somewhere in that pursuit, we lose the one thing that truly matters: connection. But here's the hard truth. You can't be deeply loved if you're not deeply known. And you can't be deeply known if you're hiding behind a mask of niceness. Men today are taught to play it safe, be polite, don't rock the boat, avoid making her uncomfortable. But what happens when you make everyone else comfortable? While your own soul is suffocating, you end up feeling isolated, number, invisible. Because the man who hides his truth in exchange for approval builds relationships that look good from the outside, but are hollow on the inside. Women don't connect with perfection. They connect with presence, with depth, with emotional honesty. Emotional intelligence isn't just about controlling your reactions, it's about owning your reality. It's about knowing your emotions without being enslaved by them. It's about recognizing that boundaries are not walls, they're invitations to intimacy. Because when you say, this is who I am, this is what I need, this is what I won't tolerate, that's not arrogance, that's clarity. Real love requires clarity. In ancient Chinese philosophy, Lao Tzu taught, he who defines himself can't know who he truly is. In other words, if you spend all your energy managing how others see you, you'll forget who you really are. You're not here to be a mirror for everyone else's comfort. You're here to be the flame, a presence that warms, illuminates, and sometimes even burns away what doesn't belong. Too many men get stuck in what psychologists call covert contracts. They believe, if I'm good to her, she'll love me. If I never get angry, she'll respect me. If I always agree, she'll never leave. But love doesn't work like that. Love without honesty is just manipulation in disguise. And the most dangerous part, most nice guys don't even realize they're lying. They think they're just being helpful, generous, supportive, but they're doing it with strings attached, even if those strings are unconscious. You're not doing it from wholeness. You're doing it to avoid being alone. You're doing it because deep down you don't believe the real you is lovable. But here's the truth. The more you suppress, the more resentful you become. The more you pretend, the more disconnected you feel. The more you chase love, the more it runs from you. Because love doesn't want performance. It wants presence. The turning point is when you finally say to yourself, if I have to hide who I am to be loved, it's not love. This is where your growth begins. You begin to express your desires. You begin to speak when something bothers you. You stop apologizing for your intensity, your depth, your masculine presence. And the people who truly matter, they don't leave. They respect you more. They feel safer with you because now they know you're not pretending. They know they can trust your yes and your no. Emotional intelligence means knowing that truth creates trust. And if a woman loses interest because you stopped pleasing her, let her go, because if your truth scares her, she was never safe for your soul in the first place. In ancient African proverbs, it's said, "When there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm." When you stop being at war with your own voice, your own truth, your own needs, you become unshakable. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not too intense. You are just not made for small, shallow love. You were made to lead with clarity, presence, and purpose. You were made to be deeply known, not casually liked. And it begins with the courage to be real, even if it means standing alone. Drop a comment below. My truth is my strength. Chapter 3. Love is not earned. Through disappearing. The power of masculine boundaries. Many men think they have to earn love. They believe that if they give more, tolerate more, and demand less, they'll finally be seen as worthy. But this is the lie that has kept generations of men exhausted, empty, and resentful. The truth is simple, but hard to swallow. You don't earn love by disappearing. You invite love by being fully seen. The world doesn't need another man who's agreeable to a fault. It needs men with backbone, men who know that love without self-respect is not love at all. It's dependency, it's anxiety, it's emotional slavery dressed up as romantic sacrifice. You were not born to be someone's emotional servant. You were born to be a grounded, powerful, emotionally intelligent leader in your own life and in your relationships. When you suppress your truth to be accepted, you don't just lose respect, you lose connection. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And what lies outside your control? How people respond to your truth. Whether she likes your boundaries, whether others approve of your choices, what lies within your control? Your integrity, your emotional courage, your willingness to speak, even if your voice shakes. Every man must learn this truth. If you don't set boundaries, people will set them for you, and you won't like the result. If you're the man who always replies immediately, always rearranges your schedule, always says yes, even when it drains you, you're teaching the world how to treat you, and they'll treat you like an option. Let's be clear. Having boundaries doesn't make you rude. It makes you respected. Because it says to the world, my time is valuable, my energy is sacred, and my presence is a gift, not a given. But to build that kind of boundary, you must face the fear behind your niceness. Ask yourself, why am I afraid to say no? What am I really afraid will happen if I stop being so available? Who taught me that my needs are a burden? Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a partner. Maybe it was a culture that told you men should never express emotion, or that wanting more means you're selfish. But here's the reality. A man without needs is a man who's lying to himself and to everyone around him. You are allowed to need space. You are allowed to want peace. You are allowed to ask for respect. And you are allowed to walk away from anything or anyone that dishonors your worth. The most attractive men are not the ones who constantly chase love. They are the ones who attract love by embodying clarity, stability, and emotional sovereignty. In Japanese philosophy, there's the idea of ma, the sacred space between things. It's not emptiness, it's where meaning lives. When a man has ma in his life, space for silence, solitude, and inner alignment, he becomes magnetic. He stops over-explaining, he stops convincing, he stops chasing. Why? Because he finally understands. I am not here to be everything to everyone. I am here to be everything to myself first. And then I give from my overflow. That is what women respect. Not your sacrifices, not your overcompensation. They respect your presence, your ability to stand grounded in your truth without needing applause for it. Love is not a reward for good behavior. It's a reflection of your own alignment. And until you align with who you really are, a man with power, purpose, and emotional depth, you'll keep attracting relationships that demand your silence in exchange for closeness. But the moment you choose truth over approval, everything changes. You start to walk away from anything that costs your peace. You stop negotiating your self-worth. You stop fearing loss because you'd rather lose others than lose yourself. And ironically, that's when the right people show up. The ones who don't need you to shrink. The ones who can meet your strength with their own. The ones who see you not as too much, but as finally just enough. This is your turning point. Don't waste another day being liked for who you're not. Be loved for who you really are, even if it takes longer, even if it costs more, because that's the kind of love that lasts. Drop a comment below. I protect my peace, not my image. Chapter 4. From approval to authenticity, reclaiming the man you were meant to be. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes he's been living more for others than for himself. Not out of courage, but out of fear. Not from vision, but from survival. And the most dangerous thing? On the outside, it looks like success. People praise him for being so nice, so reliable, so selfless. But inside, he's exhausted, disconnected, numb, because every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you smile to avoid conflict, every time you lower your standards to avoid being alone, you chip away at your own soul. This chapter is your wake-up call, because no matter how long you've been hiding, you can come home to yourself, not with aggression, not with ego, but with radical honesty. Authenticity is not about being loud, it's about being true. And the man who is true cannot be manipulated. He cannot be disrespected. He cannot be ignored. He doesn't need to chase because his energy speaks louder than his words. In ancient Greek philosophy, the term aletheia was used to describe truth, not just as a concept, but as an unveiling. It literally means the state of not being hidden. That's the man you must become, unhidden, not because you want to prove anything, but because you're done pretending. You're not too nice. You're just afraid that if people saw the real you, your intensity, your standards, your depth, they'd walk away. But here's the reality. When you become real, people will leave. But let them, because they were only attached to your mask, not your soul. You weren't made to be chosen by everyone. You were made to walk in truth and be recognized by the right ones. Emotional intelligence means understanding that not everyone deserves access to you. Some people don't want a man, and they want a servant. Some women don't want love, they want control. And some relationships don't want connection, they want performance. But you're done performing. You're choosing alignment over attention, power over popularity, purpose over pleasing. Because the world doesn't change when men are nice. It changes when men are real. And when you become real, everything shifts. You stop waiting for permission. You stop explaining your worth. You stop fearing loss. Because you know, if something leaves your life when you start living in truth, it was never meant to stay. That's not loss, that's liberation. You begin to create space, space for peace, space for passion, space for real connection. Because a man who lives in truth creates gravity. He becomes the anchor in a world of chaos. He doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't convince, he commands. And love flows to him, not because he begs for it, but because he embodies it. The love of a good woman, the loyalty of real friends, the respect of his peers, and above all, the quiet, unshakable self-respect that no one can take away. This is your moment. You can keep living in the comfort of nice, or you can rise into the discomfort of authentic manhood. It will cost you, yes, but it will give you everything. Your power, your peace, your presence. So the next time you feel the urge to shrink, to lie, to hide, pause and remember who you are becoming. You're not here to be everyone's favorite. You're here to be free. Because freedom doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being real, no matter the cost. Drop a comment below. I don't fear rejection, I fear self-betrayal. If this message resonated with you, brothers, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful truth. Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where enduring wisdom meets the strength of presence, and where we uncover the truths modern society refuses to teach men. We're just getting started.